Hi, I'm Tom Hamilton, and I'm the founder and CEO of Lumbercycle, an urban forestry nonprofit. Today we're at our Ramona yard. We're going to be looking at our sawmills and all of the wood that we produce. And more importantly, I want to talk to you guys about urban forestry management. Urban forestry is the planting, maintenance, care, and protection of tree populations in urban settings. Trees are an essential function of city planning and urban infrastructure, and the green spaces they inhabit include not only parks and gardens, but also landscape boulevards, river and coastal promenades, greenways, and street trees. Every year, millions of dollars and thousands of hours of effort are put in by workers and volunteers to keep these trees healthy and planting more to expand our urban canopy. The problem with our urban forestry plan with regard to biomass utilization is that there is none. A tree works its entire life harvesting carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere, releasing oxygen for us to breathe, and storing that carbon as woody biomass. They're essentially giant storage containers for the carbon in our atmosphere's carbon dioxide. When a tree dies and begins to decay with the help of fungus and oxygen, that carbon is slowly re-released back into our soil and the atmosphere, and the carbon cycle begins all over again. It's an essential part of our existence. Unfortunately, with the expansion of a globalized society, we've been cutting down millions more mature and even old-growth trees around the world and not replacing them nearly at the same rate. This has led to a massive unbalance of carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases being emitted into the atmosphere much faster than it can be harvested by our remaining trees. Fortunately, proper sustainable urban forestry management can solve a number of these problems. We need to change the perception of urban wood, incentivize tree companies to save logs to be salvaged, utilize the hierarchy of usable woody bioproducts, and reduce waste, and continue to plant trees that provide valuable lumber at the end of their life cycle. As of right now, urban forestry management plants and cares for trees, but when that tree dies, there's virtually one option. The tree company will cut it down and chuck it into the chipper. So why aren't these trees being utilized for other things? When a felled tree is cut and dried into lumber or other byproducts, the carbon that makes up that woody biomass continues to be stored, and its release back into the atmosphere is delayed. So just send all the wood to local mills, right? Wrong. Urban lumber doesn't exist on a large scale because, for one, there aren't enough sawmills to accept and mill all the logs. And there aren't enough mills for the logs because there aren't enough demand for the people asking for urban lumber, as wood can be bought cheaply and conveniently at your local hardware store. Everyone wants to make their next project with walnut or white oak. But what if I told you there were other wonderful exotic species that are growing right now in your neighborhood? Why buy tomatoes at the grocery store when you can use the fruit from a plant in your backyard? If we change just that one part of the chain, we can make some real changes all the way down to urban forestry management on a local level to create a long-term sustainable environment for utilizing these natural resources in our area. So let's say tomorrow that magically we convince our city of 1.3 million people that when they need to use wood in a non-structural project, which is a whole other bucket of worms, that they will use locally sourced urban wood. This wood needs to be accessible and affordable. Right now, there are a small handful of mills that sell their wood for specialty projects, and they have their wood set at a premium, even considering the recent rise in lumber prices. With a greater demand for urban lumber, that would create an incentive for more people to be involved in processing and selling urban wood, which theoretically would bring the cost down and divert more trees from the landfill. That's great, but now there's a new problem. When trees come down, they need to be cut into usable lengths and somehow transported to a nearby mill. We've experimented with our partners at Tree San Diego and their tree juvenation project, having log drop-off yards around the county, with some success, as it gave an incentive to tree companies to save time and money chipping wood and paying tipping fees by just having a space closer than the landfill to take logs. The problem there is that not all logs are good for making lumber, and that no matter what, you're going to have some waste when processing a felled tree. Thankfully, there are a number of byproducts that you can produce with logs not suitable for lumber, like biochar, a soil amendment that increases moisture retention in your soil and mulch mixtures and continues to store carbon for potentially hundreds of years as wood charcoal. With tools like a biochar reactor with or near your sawmill operation, even chipped branches and leaves can be processed into products that continue to sequester carbon, making the entire tree reusable and value-added products created. Unfortunately, the straightness and size of the logs are not the only factors when deciding whether to mill a log into lumber. Species are very important. Here in California, we are blessed to have such a huge number of eucalyptus trees from the border all the way to the Bay Area. They're amazing trees because they're extremely durable, drought-resistant, fast-growing, which means they soak up a lot of carbon quickly, but unfortunately it has kind of a history for having less than usable lumber. There are over 800 species of eucalypts around the world, but a very specific few have been planted en masse here in the United States. The most common being blue gum, red gum, sugar gum. These woods are known to be extremely dense, difficult to dry and machine due to their interlocking grain, and cracks and warps very easily. Aside from that, it's great. Very beautiful with exotic colors and character. We've had success using it for outdoor furniture because of its density, but because of its self-destructive tendencies, you have to be very cautious when using it for fine woodworking. We have worked tirelessly to try and find large-scale solutions for this eucalyptus, which is a double-edged sword. Eucalyptus makes up the vast majority of the trees that are removed and processed annually, so we need to find solutions for the material coming down right now, without being so successful that we continue to plant them without keeping biomass utilization in mind. Our climate is quickly changing, and projections show San Diego to be heating up several degrees over a short period of time, meaning we need to adjust our urban forest management plan to meet these changes with species that are environmentally appropriate not only for our climate, but that can also be utilized after their life cycle. So that leads us back to our biggest player in planning the future of urban forests, our local government. We need to be choosing the right tree for the right place, carrying and maintaining them in a way that will produce straight and usable logs at the end of their life cycle, instructing city tree removal companies to cut trees to be removed into millable sections and coordinate the transport to a local sawyer. The wood needs to be accurately and consistently milled and dried into affordable and accessible products. And most of all, we as a community need to be conscious of any opportunity to use urban wood in our next projects. Lumbercycle has been actively seeking these kinds of solutions in our community since 2016. And prior, with our partners and friends with Palomar College's woodworking program and the San Diego Fine Woodworkers Association, we have donated over 10,000 board feet of lumber to local community enrichment programs like high school wood shops, community gardens, arts programs, scout projects, and beyond to get urban lumber into people's hands and, more importantly, into their minds. We've milled over 1,000 logs with our 4 sawmills thanks to grant programs made available by CAL FIRE's Biomass Utilization Grants and SDG&E's Environmental Champions Grant. We've trained hundreds of volunteers how to plant, care for, and utilize trees after their life cycle to help develop a future workforce. And we work with community activists to find ways to use wood and directly impact our community at large. To find more information on our projects and urban forestry in general, visit our website at www.lumbercycle.org and follow us on all social media platforms at Lumbercycle.